Howdy.
Hello.
Okay, so we should be live again. Let me just cut back over to TTS. Here we are. So first, let me just introduce the first topic we're going to discuss briefly using my favorite example. The explanation of why cross is perfectly safe and nothing will ever go wrong. Um, if you remember the speed curve video from earlier, once you get to range 4, well, your options get kind of limited. You've got dive and dive. That's it. It's the only normal that hits at range 4. Now, if you know your opponent's going to dive, you can play a block or a focus or a sweep and do something in return. In fact, you can play block even if you don't think they're playing dive. So, you're up against Sagat. He strikes with, something. And in your infinite wisdom, you're like, this must be dive. But I don't have a focus or a sweep. So you play cross. Then he reveals cross, and you're like, that's weird. Huh. Why would he do that? Now we're at range 8. Nothing hits at range 8. So, being a cautious, conservative player, you prepare, figuring, hey, nothing bad could happen. Introducing the Fireball meta. Also, why you should never ever play cross against Sagat. Unless it deals lethal and wins you the game. And even then, honestly. This attack hits at range 8. The normals cap out at range 4. The Fireball meta describes how attacks start to interact, and these are always going to be specials and ultras, at ranges 4 and greater in particular. They do matter at closer ranges than 4. Notably, this has a min range of 3, which is true of most projectiles. That the min range is less than 4 is true of most projectiles, not 3 specifically. But they have kind of a unique set of interactions, all their own. And it's a pretty interesting topic. So I have here my friend and comrade and something of a experienced SF Exceed player. Your introduction, sir?
Hello, I am Blue. I'm sure a good amount of people watching have talked with me, even as recently as yesterday, but there's probably a decent amount of you that have not had the opportunity to interact with me. That might change in the future. It's hard to really say what will happen. I love Exceed. I've been playing it for like a year and a half now, 2 years. And I was very active in playtesting, especially with Season 4 and Season 5. And Season 3 is my favorite, which is a very unusual opinion among experienced Exceed players. And I hope that I can share some of that love with you today.
Mm-hmm. So, we had projectiles before. And by the way, this is going to be the most laid-back section that you're in today. We are really just going to be chatting about all the different pieces that make up the Fireball meta, because it stabilized in Season 3, because Season 3 basically created the rules that everything follows. And they went, alright, some of that real janky stuff from before we're not going to worry about, we're not doing that again. And then ever since, we've been twisting it and making spins on it and doing interesting things with it. Including in Season 5, which I'll talk about a little bit in the design chat at the end. So, yeah. Kick back, take it easy, and let's talk about, as I'll move the camera over, the Fireball meta. Oh boy. Alright, so I've got 4 decks here. And I went through all of Seasons 1 through 4, and picked up all of the projectiles and all of the explicit anti-projectile tools. And do you want to start with Season 3, or do you want to start from Season 1? Or what do you want to do?
This will shape the tone of the entire presentation. I think we should start with Red Horizon, since I feel like that is the season that people have the least experience with, and it's nice to see where we've come from to know where we're going.
Yeah, so this will give you a sense of the kind of nonsense that happens in early XC that you may never have been exposed to. So let's just flip through some of these cards.
Oh man, we're starting with really powerful options.
We're starting with the most powerful special in the game. This special can hit for 10. That's a special that hits for 10. Now,
And I know it looks like, oh, you have to spend 6 force. No, you don't.
no. If you're Debris, you spend 2 gauge, and then you hit for 10. It's okay though. It doesn't hit range 8, so it's balanced, right?
Yeah. Sagat laughs in Devers' face as they both cross out.
Yeah. All right. So Summon Assailants has an interesting profile because this hits at whatever range you want. Now it's 4 speed and 4 guard, which actually makes it kind of sane, except for its absurd amount of power. Putting this in like the general purpose category, right? Like this isn't really slow. This definitely isn't fast, but it also doesn't lose to fast fireballs.
Yep.
So it's just
the guard on the guard on this makes it solidly good at everything. It is unusual in that it fits in this center that we'll be putting kind of generically statted things, except that this is not generically statted. This is way too good.
Yes. So you may notice that we've already got these sections lined up, and you'll see more of this as we go. But the fireball meta is shaped in its own way as a rock paper scissors triangle. Fast fireballs are fast and poke out mid-speed fireballs, which do enough damage to destroy slow fireballs, which have enough power and guard to outtrade fast fireballs.
And if you're going to take one thing away from everything we talk about today, I want it to be this. Unlike normals, which options you have is shaped by the character you're playing. So being aware of what parts of the triangle you have in your kit will allow you to play the ranged Exceed game much better than you would otherwise.
Yes. If you're playing a brand new character and you are not at all confident with them, you can play normals. Everyone can play normals. Just stick to ranges 1 to 3, and your normal game will work. Once you get past that, though, you need to learn about your unique options. All right. Well, Sonic Comet is actually relatively sane as they go.
Yeah, I mean, there is a version of this in a Season 2 character that we will get to eventually, since we're probably going to move in chronological order. That is this, but a little different. This is solidly in the Fast Fireball, and notably, despite its looks, this is a anti-fireball tool.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that because Juno does not have a dominant ranged threat. Well, that's kind of a lie, but Juno's a weird character. So Juno, as printed, without crazy shenanigans, which is something she's really good at, doesn't have very many dominant range threats that she can just kind of sit at range 4+ and hit you with. So Sonic Comet is the opponent is threatening like something reasonable, and I need to poke it out, kind of thing.
Yep. So it's a fast range poke, solidly fast fireball. Oh, look, Juno gets another nice thing. So this is a speed 6 before advance 3, 1 to 2. This is better than Kikyaku.
It is. It's fine. It only does 2 damage. Danku does 3, right?
That's true. Danku does get a better after effect. This gets a hit draw card. Danku gets to set up the top deck, which is actually really good for Dan. But yeah, so this is actually what we call a fast dive. Like, it's dive that beats dive, which makes it a fast dive. Go figure. It
also is much more range agnostic than dive, which makes it really good to throw out.
It makes it too good to exist. But yes, it is the 1 to 2 and the before advance 3, and the fact that it doesn't care about whether you move past the opponent means this hits from ranges, what, 2 to 5?
2 to 5.
Yeah, which is a fireball profile that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, this is incredibly good range. This is not a fireball. Somebody asked, are we counting these as fireballs? No, it's a fast dive.
Yeah, it's part of the ranged meta. Fireball meta is what we're going to be calling it, but we're talking about the overall ranged meta of Exceed for ranges 4+.
Right, so if you don't have a fireball in your kit, you almost certainly have one of these 3 options. Either a fast dive, a substitute for dive in case you didn't draw your actual dive, or an attack that has a ranged-based dodge effect on it, which, speaking of, Juno gets another nice thing. This has attacks at range 4 or greater do not hit you. So if you're sitting out there at range, I don't know, 7 or 8 against Sagat, and he plays face-up low tiger shot, he loses, period.
Yeah, and Juno's even smirking in this art. It's pretty accurate to the feeling of playing this when Sagat tries to low tiger shot you.
This is true. It is tragic. So there's a lot of characters that have things like this. Now, we happen to be starting with Season 1, which means you're going to see cards that are all over the place in power level. These cards are not representative.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about a lot of cards that just to make it very clear, these are ultra quality stats. Like Comet Tail, to refer back to this card. This is a card that if it did 5 damage would actually be like a 2-gauge ult.
Yep. Juno is incredibly strong, and it's not even because of her card quality, but her card quality is really, really good. So, range-based dodge. All right, what do we got next?
A really dumb ultra.
This is interesting. So it's a dumb ultra, but it's surprisingly answerable.
Yeah.
So this is only speed 4, and it hits ranges 4 to 6. That's a pretty narrow range band. That means if you're at range 4 or 5, and you know this is coming, or if you have some idea it's coming, you can play Assault. And if you're at anywhere within that range, you can play Cross. And as long as you have room to retreat, you're safe.
This is like the most mid-speed of mid-speed fireballs.
Yeah. So it can obviously deal as much damage as you bloody well wants, but it still loses to anything faster that can poke it out. So it is really crazy, but actually still just a mid-speed fireball. Same character, by the way.
Oh, this is disgusting.
Gets to have a fast fireball for some reason. So because of how this is a Zoe card. Zoe's ability lets her recur her attacks, which means if you have the gauge to support this, and it consumes basically 2 gauge each time you throw it, because you're getting 1 gauge for hitting. You just spend 2 gauge and loop this thing forever. And deal 4 damage each time.
I hate this card.
It's really horrifying, and it's far too good. The boost is actually much, 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 much less healthy than the attack. And the attack is already pretty insane. That said, 4 is not enough to stun out a slow fireball. So even though it's not reasonable for other reasons, mostly because of the character it's on, this is just a fast fireball. As a card, nothing about this is all that unreasonable. Honestly, it shouldn't be a 2 gauge ult at the stat line, I would say. 1 gauge probably.
Would agree, except that it's Zoe and she has gauge for days.
Well, yeah. On Zoe, this should be like... this should be 3 gauge, but... Details.
Oh, this is a funny one to put here.
Yeah. So why did I put Shoryuken in here?
The closest explanation that, for the categories you have here is that it is a quote-unquote range to dodge. Despite not having that printed, the after move up to 2 means that, assuming the opponent's fireball has a narrow band and you have positioned correctly, you can just move out of the way of it.
Exactly. So, if we go back to the mid-speed over here, which has range 4 to 6, and many fireballs are going to have range 2 to 5, 3 to 6, that sort of thing. Andrel actually mentioned Golden Arrow's range is unusually good at 3 to 7. Most range bands are narrower than that, meaning they cover fewer spaces. If you have after move up to 2 on a super fast attack like this, you can just get out of the way of a lot of things and not care. Zoe has an anti-projectile and 2 strong projectiles, and hey, look, another projectile.
This is in competition for one of the strongest fireballs we'll be looking at.
It is. This is deceptively good and exceptionally good as a special fireball. The thing that makes it stand out more than most of the fast fireballs is the after effect, which is comparable to hit push 1, but it's actually a little bit safer because at 3 this is on curve. And you can duck into slow fireball ranges, so it doesn't lose to slow fireballs anymore. And then if you're up against somebody who doesn't have a slow fireball, you just back up, and, well, now they're even farther away, and because you're Zoe, you get to do it over and over.
Yep, this is comparable and slightly better in a lot of ways to Cyrus's infamous 5-speed fireball that we will be looking at later.
Yes, Aria of the Winds is like the pristine example of the balanced version of a card this good. And it's very, very good. Alright, so this is just a fast dive.
Yep.
There's something kind of funny about it, which is that the after effect means that it actually can lose to slow fireballs. It usually won't, because it's only going to push you 2 spaces if you play it from starting positions. But, if you have a slow fire, if you're at starting positions, and you are sure that she's going to play focus charge, play your low tiger shot, I guess. It's not much reason not to.
You also look like a real hero for low tiger shotting Zoe out of her focus charge.
That is one of the funniest things. That said, if you're a Zoe player, you already know this. You're never going to see this attack. The boost is too
Yep.
good.
We were talking about openings. The opening here is to play it like this.
Yeah, play it sideways, where you got your possession, add up to 3 cards from your hand to your gauge, and then spend 3 gauge to succeed next turn. You're set. You're going to be hearing a lot of little things about Season 1 strategy, because we've... I guess technically you first played Season 2, right?
Yeah, I played like a couple games of Season 2, and then I was like, this is too much for me, and it is too card gamey, and that's not what I was looking for. So then I moved to Red Horizon and played a lot of Red Horizon.
Yeah.
Before then moving back to Season 2, and then eventually Season 3 when it came out.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say we both cut our teeth on Season 1, and then I realized that technically you started in Season 2 and then went back to Season 1. I started on Season 1, but like we both played a lot of Season 1, so there's a lot of interactions that are going to be foreign to the people who see this in the future, who are getting to the game for the first time, because Season 1 is going to be out of tournament rotation. But it's still a great season. It's just harder to get a hold of outside of, Tabletop Simulator. It's a great season with a lot of goofy nonsense. So National Guard is really, really bad. It's better than it looks, though. It says close 1 for each point of damage you've taken. And Vincent's ability lets him bolt extra guard onto this. So he can have more defense. It doesn't have printed defense, but it has defense. Trust me. This is a slow dive, and it's not particularly good. I guess this falls in the category of being a cross counter.
Yeah, Vincent actually has quite a few cross counters, which is pretty good because he's Vincent.
Actually, wait, that means it is a slow fireball, even though it's not a fireball.
Yeah, it's probably worth having a category for things that interact like that are not fireballs.
Yeah, I'll do that. Let's add that on the board.
And this is also notable since with Vincent's base UA, he can get up to 6 guard on this. It's unusual to see power values greater than 6 on fireballs that are sane.
Yes. On any specials, honestly. Although we'll definitely be seeing some things that are not sane and some things that are not specials and some things that are very special. Speaking of...
Yeah, speaking of not sane, here is the worst card, here is the best card.
Yes, so Crimson Barrage is, like, on paper, one of the worst attacks in Exceed. It's speed 1. This thing is never above curve. Like, doesn't matter what you do to it. You can play Swift Destruction, and then it's only above curve at range 5. Sorry, that's a plus 4 speed boost. So, it's incredibly slow. You have to use your ability to throw guard onto it. It doesn't have any printed defenses. But, that hit effects. My word. I think I'm quoting you correctly that it may as well say hit win the game.
Yeah, that is what I said, and I think it's worth reading the effect and reading it very carefully for the viewers so they can take in exactly what it says.
Yes. So on hit, if you hit, you name 2 cards. Your opponent discards all copies of both of those cards and then reveals their hands. So, ultras gone. Everyone has 2 ultras. By default, you can just go, I name both of your ultras. If they had any, they're gone. If they were holding all of them, they probably resign.
If they have some key cards that they really like, maybe they have their Guile and they have like Spinning Back Knuckle and Sonic Hurricane, you can get rid of those. Guile suddenly is a lot less mobile and a lot less fast.
Yep. Laugh in the face of Season 2 by naming their most important transformations. And then, as an extra bonus on the end of this, they reveal their hand, so they're susceptible to reading, and you have additional hand knowledge. That is, if they have any cards left. Whew. What a thing. But this attack is still incredibly unsafe. So, you have to bolt extra guard onto it, and even then it loses to dive. So this falls in the category of a slow fireball.
It is similar to that mid-speed fireball we looked at in Neocosmic Flare. It is the slowest of the slow fireballs.
Yep, it is incredibly punishing if it lands. It easily stops fast pokes. It loses to every form of dive.
Man, we keep on just getting nutty cards. Yep. I love Season 1.
Yep, Atomic Bolt is a speed 5 attack that hits the entire board, because you just close 8 and advance 1 is basically what this says.
Yep, this is the much more awkwardly templated version of phasers before.
Mm-hmm. Meaning it's so like for all its flair and style, 8 power, but it's just a fast dive. It's a fast dive that doesn't lose to cross, which means it's really stupid good. But 3 gauge, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. It's nutty, but also we're gonna look at the real meat in Ulrich's kit in a moment.
Yes. If all you want to do is stuff every fireball on the planet by getting in their face right afterwards, why would you pay 3 gauge for that when you could just play this for free? Stun immunity, ignore armor before close 8. What does this lose to?
Focus, but never actually.
Right, the reason it's never actually is because Ulrich has a bunch of power boosts, so he's going to have at least 6 power on this thing. So it stuns focus because it does more damage. Cuts through block. Underspeed sweep, so it doesn't get hit by sweep. Tanks through fast fireballs and closes. Tanks through mid speeds and closes. Tanks through slows or outspeeds them and closes in. This loses to dive at ranges 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Is the answer. Yeah, Jay just posted in chat actually. And that's it, and only if he doesn't have his back to the wall. This shouldn't exist.
This is a card that it got printed is what is the opposite of a miracle?
Blasphemy?
Is blasphemy.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh man.
So in our little categorization game we have going here, it's a cross counter, but you can just kind of put it in the center.
Yeah, it's everything you could ever want. Alright. Ionization is 2 to 4, 5, 4, hit, retreat as far as possible. This basically makes it a dive shape. As a dive-shaped projectile, it's a little bit weird, because it doesn't beat slow projectiles.
It often will lose to slow projectiles if they have the range to support it.
Yeah. So this is kind of one of our mediocre projectiles, right?
Within the context of the ranged meta of Exceed, yes, although within the context of Ulrich's kit, this is a great card.
Yeah, in the context of Ulrich's kit, it's fantastic, because he has invisibility, which you saw a second ago, and he has Lightning Javelin, which is a mix-up with Ionization, if for some reason he needs to play mix-ups. This is another card that is really, really good, pretty darn unreasonable, honestly.
Yeah, so if you thought like inevitability was unfair, like here's your fast heal confirm card, but it has like awkward range because that's how we balance.
It would be awkward, except this is on Ulrich, who can be pretty much wherever he wants.
Yes.
Oops.
Yes, very true. Very big whoops.
Yep. Functionally, this is a fast dive. It beats basically every projectile, because it's going to get in close with the hit effect.
Yep.
And it does lose the things dive loses to, as assuming you're not dead. Zap. Alright, so there's actually a bunch of things that are shaped a little bit like this. This is
we'll be seeing
quite
a few
the
of them.
same as... Yeah, so like you might think, oh, this looks like Sonic Comet. Range 3+, speed yes, power 1, hit, gain advantage, but it has closed 3 spaces on it.
Yeah,
that means that even though it hits a 3 to 5, it's actually dive.
It's still an anti-fireball tool, but it is a much less safe anti-fireball tool compared to Sonic Comet.
Yep. Alright, here we go. This is actually kind of a reasonable card. It's very good, but it's reasonable.
Yeah, it's basically like if Ken Fireball had Ignore Guard instead of, just crushing.
Yeah.
Which is better, but also crushing is so fun.
Yeah, so Paralyzing Dart is, it's just speed 4. It's not particularly fast. It's never above curve. And it has Ignore Guard on it. So it loses fast things, beats slower things. You guessed it. That's a mid-speed. Alright. Once again, we have this card that's clearly a melee attack, except why would you ever play this trying to hit with it?
Yeah, I mean, like, the stat line tells you everything you need to know. This is mediocre even in close range, so don't use it in close range. It's like cross, but better.
Exactly. The after move 2 means you can duck into the range of fireballs or out of the range of melee attacks, depending on what you need. It's unusually option selecty in that way, although not as much as the Zoe card, because what is? So functionally, this is another range dodge.
Yep.
Shuriken Illusion. Alright, so this is another Satoshi card. This one is a fast dive. It's above curve, beats dive, loses things dive, loses 2. Because of that close 4.
It's quite good, but ultimately pretty reasonable.
Yep. So let's see. So these shapes are going to start to look familiar, and by the way, that's part of the point. You're going to start to see everything kind of fits into the same sort of lines. The standouts we will mention. Don't worry. So, Chivalry. What is Chivalry?
A Tatsu.
Yep. And if Tatsu has any amount of guard on it, that makes it a cross counter. Because you start this thing at range 1, and cross cannot retreat out of range. That makes it notably similar to Ryu's Tatsu, but not Ken's. Ken's is designed for offense and doesn't have any guard.
Yeah, Ken's Tatsu, if it had guard, would be disgusting. So I'm glad we live in this universe and not one where it had guard.
Alright, Ballista. So once again, we have an above curve at range 4, hit close 4. Does somehow even less damage than those 1 damage pings.
Except when it does 7 damage.
Right. Except when you have like 5 gauge and you stun the opponent last turn because you're Reese and you're Seed mode and you know everything's horrible. But I wouldn't worry too much because if you got there, you probably did it by playing this boost.
Yeah.
Alright, so Andrew asked me an interesting question when we were talking the other day. Is Heaven's Punishment the best fireball or the worst fireball? Yes. Yes. By the way, this is not the official art. This is a substitute art that I use in the other module. Anyway, 3 to 505. Alright, so it's above curve. After move 1. Alright, we know from the Zoe thing, right? That's actually kind of safe. Like, that's not bad. Power 0. And before, +2 power for each card in your opponent's gauge. Well, sometimes that's amazing. And sometimes it's absolutely meaningless.
Sometimes the opponent plays Gurren Senpukyaku and you lose all of your damage and they hit you for 8 and you cry.
Yep. Gurren Senpukyaku is a Kin Ultra, which costs 3 gauge, has 4 guard, and it's basically Tatsu shaped, but it does more damage by not crossing instead of by crossing. So, Punishment, well, the damage is a before effect, or like that +2 power is a before effect. So if the opponent plays an Ultra, they discard all that gauge on reveal. Oops. Yeah, it's generally very bad.
Yeah, so luckily we will see a shape very similar to this that we can compare it to with Metsu Hadoken. So just keep in mind the stat line, and then we'll come back to it when we look at Metsu Hadoken to be like, yeah, this is how good you need to be for this to actually be worth playing.
Yeah. So this is the fireball that wants to be the unbeatable fireball, but generally doesn't have the damage. So it's going to devolve into being a fast fireball that is sometimes okay. Oh, Natali. Again, this is not the official art. I did get permission from Jasko to use this art, so I don't feel bad about it. Darkness Barrier. Attacks at range 4 don't hit you. Well, this is kind of obvious, right?
Yeah, it's printed on the card.
Yep. Range 4 doesn't hit you. Range dodge. This is itself a card that if the dodge goes off, it hits you, which by no means will we always be seeing. So it's kind of nice in that regard. But it's not a particularly impressive range-based dodge. Only range 4, remember.
It also has a lot of the same issues that Crimson Barrage has, but without being Crimson Barrage.
Yes, so Crimson Barrage is the Vincent card where he can pump it with the extra guard. Natali can't. This is just a speed 1 card with no defenses. Good luck! Soul Thresher. Alright, this thing's actually amazing. Whew.
The card that dunks on so much of SF.
Yep. So this does lose to slow fireballs. And that's about it. It even dunks fast dives because that is a speed 7. The only thing that makes this even halfway reasonable is that you can't use that as an opener because it costs a gauge to do any damage at all. That is a actually amazing fast fireball. Pretty unreasonable. But Natali needs it, so, you know. Alright. So y'all should be starting to get the trend here. This is a guardy move, kind of slow, has a close effect on it. So that's a cross counter. Cross counters also function against fast fireballs because you get hit, then you move in.
Pretty simple.
Yep.
This is a brutal fast dive.
Yes, that hit effect means that generally you're going to... So this is an incredibly good opener. If your opponent doesn't cross out, then they're going to be burning most of their hands, and you're now at range 1, which, since this is a Marathi card, that's real good for you. Very punishing fast dive. Oh, what did I put up next? What nonsense is this? Oh!
It's like janky tiger cannon.
Yeah, so this is a slow. I mean, it's interesting because it's a slow that doesn't usually lose to mids. So it's actually an exceptionally good slow fireball.
Yep. The stun immunity is excellent.
Yeah. This is actually worth 3 gauge. The only reason it doesn't get played very often is because Brilliant Tactician is on it. And that's a really good boost.
That is a boost that, if you have any doubts, you should just not put on a character, because your character is not weak enough to deserve that boost.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So that's kind of a queen of the slow fireballs. Much better than Crimson Barrage, but, you know, less used. Alright, so Bear Rush is interesting. This doesn't look like a fireball. But...
because it's a bear ball.
It is. You pick up your wolf, whose name is Bear, and you throw it at the opponent. Miska's a puppet character. She has a marker who sits on the board, a little, well, not that little actually, a wolf whose name is Bear, who sits wherever she wants, and because of that, this can act like a projectile. Since it's a projectile and it's speed 5, this should be a fast fireball. The hit effect sometimes actually makes it a mid because it can do enough damage to crush slows. But in theory, this is kind of structured like a fast fireball.
Yeah, since and we'll get to this when we actually start seeing slow fireballs that are real and not fake. Since the average guard of a slow fireball is 5, that means that your opponent has to have 4 cards in hand for it to crush, or 5 cards in hand for it to crush. Mm-hmm. Which is an unusually high amount, but the secret to zoners and Exceed is they tend to play high hand. So whether it works or not does depend on the character you're fighting.
Mm-hmm. Alright. This actually is a lot like the Satoshi card. It automatically beats anything slower because it has hit move ups too.
Yeah, there's a few of these in Red Horizon, and you probably will not see this again, is Spike but a little further out. It's kind of an unhealthy card design, but within the context of Red Horizon, it is okay.
Yep. So this covers even stun immune options because the hit effect lets you reposition out of range. And there's almost no way you're going to be in range of stun immune attack because they all tend to have fairly specific range bands.
Cough. Inevitability. Cough.
I meant real attacks that exist.
You're correct.
Not the most godlike attacks ever to be printed. Oh, speaking of stun immune attacks. Yeah, so Miska herself is a zoner, and part of the giveaway here is that she actually has 1 card in each corner of our trifecta.
Yep.
Not counting the ultra, like 1 special in each corner. She has the fast projectile that is Bear Rush, the mid speed that is Kneecapper, and the slow that is Fire in the Hole. And
to quickly explain the dynamics of Miska, Bear is generally going to be your fast fireball because he can play normals also. So you can also just punch him out with Grasp or Cross. So Miska herself will be representing the slower aspects of the fireball game since they're coming from her instead of Bear.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Oh, Lord.
Disgusting card.
Alright, so this is our first card to enter the other category of unbeatable. This is Raijin Oath. It belongs to Mei-Lian, and if it comes out, there's nothing you can do about it.
Just play Flare Wand.
You might be able to dodge with Flare Wand or EX Cross, but probably not, because she probably has a copy in her discard pile, which means it has extra range.
Just play Critical Banishing Flat. There we go.
There you go. Yeah, so actually, range dodges will work against cards like this, so even though they're quote-unquote unbeatable, tools that are designed to beat the fireball meta can still deal with them.
Yeah, actually, among our ranged dodges category, the only one that loses to Raijin Oath is Sealing Strike, which is thematic because Satoshi was taught by Mei-Lian.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, attacks at range 4 don't hit you. There you go. Man, this loses to one of Natali's cards. Unplayable.
Yeah, obviously, it's super bad then. Oh, speaking of disgusting cards.
Yes. Malian, alright. Okay, somebody joked earlier about me taking out all of Malian's normals. No, I didn't. Alright. Or maybe it was Lily's, but like, no. We're not concerned about that in this regard. They can extend their range, but that just means exactly what you think it means. It means their assault is a fast dive. It means their dive is just a slightly longer dive. Their normals still move them and interact the normal way. Like, at range 4, sweep is a slow fireball, but it doesn't...
Spike is a mid-speed.
Yeah, spike is a mid-speed. Like, they just occupy their normal places in the triangle. So, nothing really changes with the normals other than they get better, and they do more things. This card, attacks at range 3 or greater don't hit you. Printed range 1 or 2 makes it look like it's almost reasonable. It's not.
Also, if you know, we'll be talking design later, but another pro tip for budding designers out there: attacks at range 4 or greater, not 3 or greater. 3 or greater causes unhealthy interactions.
Yes, because at range 3, you're not really inside the fireball meta. You're inside the normal meta, and this can actually cover sweep and spike, which you're not dodging projectiles anymore. You're just dodging attacks.
And this actually has a very memorable interaction for me because Malian's her character ability. We're going to use real terms instead of fake terms. Her character ability allows her to give extra range to this if another copy is in her discard pile. Which the reason why that's memorable is because that means that she can hit at a range that she dodges.
Yep, which is pretty insane. Alright, okay, here we go. This is actually a pretty normal, quote-unquote, Fireball Ultra. It's just big damage.
Yeah, Lilia also has a special version of this that is less big damage, but they're both just mid-speed fireballs. They even have pretty much the generic Hadoken stat line printed, which, for reference, is 3 to 6, 4, 4, not 3, 4. They're slightly weaker because you can amp them up.
Yep. But yeah, range 3 to 6, speed 4. That's the Hadoken stat line. One of the important interactions of that, by the way, is that from starting positions, if you throw a 3 to 6 projectile that is speed 4 or slower, even if the opponent doesn't have dive, they can play assault. Or like, even if they don't have EX dive or whatever. Like, assault ducks into the minimum range so that you don't get hit by your fireball. So you have an out.
Notably, fireballs represent two other aspects of the opening mix-up game, which is that they don't move, and the ones that have range 6 printed beat cross.
Yes, that is massively important. So like your focus or your sweep that would normally catch a dive does nothing to a fireball, and your cross, which dodges everything, gets punished by a fireball that is range 6 or greater on its max range. Oh look, more Lily. No surprise, she's a gunslinger. This is a little bit goofy, to be honest.
This card is disgusting.
This should not be 2 gauge. But yeah, the before effect doesn't necessarily go off, but it doesn't matter because you can just be at range 4. Like, you don't need this range to be 2 to 6. It's... I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, you're Lily, so you have, like, half your kit is fireballs, half your kit is, like, cross and grasp, and then also your grasp is 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, depending on, you know, game state. You have so many ways to set the opponent at range 4, it's amazing.
Yep. And so does Mei Lian, for that matter. These characters are both great at setting up these range 4 ultras. Alright. Okay, this is a still absurdly good fireball, but at least it's, like, kind of recognizable. We got range 2 to 6, which is one of the fireball range bands. It's actually one of the best ones. Speed 6, and then, to my great sorrow, this is power 3. That's the only thing that makes this really, truly unreasonable.
It's cross from further out, and also at range 2 where cross is on curve, because you don't deserve to live.
Yeah. So, fun thing about this, you're going to see it later. You're going to see the balanced version of this card, which is called Straight Fire. You might have seen it earlier, actually, but you'll see it again later. This is not the balanced version. We'll talk about why that is when you get to Straight Fire. Bolt Barrage. Okay, this is the same as the Ultra. It's just special. So
smaller and free. It's hard to play because it has such a good boost on it, but
sometimes you just got to do 7 damage.
Yeah.
Dark Tide Summon. This is a fast poke. It doesn't usually do a ton of damage, and if it does, then you're probably EXing and you're in Exceed mode, so, like, you earned it.
And it is a to borrow something that has been talked about a lot today. A set play tool it's mostly used to give you a better follow up later on, and also because it's a fast poke, that means it's a reactive set play tool, which means that you can mash it on defense and then immediately go into your turn with like EX Assault or something to punch the opponent for what, 7?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Remember, above curve cards are very potent defensive tools, so this lets you poke them out when they try to initiate at range, and then you get to do your thing. It is, however, beatable. It still trades down against low fireballs. Oh, this thing. So this is the first special that well and truly belongs in the unbeatable category. Because the hit effect does not say pull 4, it says pull up to 4.
Why does this card exist?
I mean, I guess we also gave him, what, Fusion Bane and double charge Executioner, so we had to give him something good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be talking more about power budget later, but I did say in the past that Fusion Bane is a card so bad it makes Spike look like a 3-gauge Ultra.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
So, Caden is very, very lumpy, but aside from just not liking characters that are designed like that, this is a card that is disgusting.
Yes. It is well and truly unbeatable because basically if they play a Guardy thing, pull them into range where they miss. If they play a Guardy thing that has close range, lead them where they are, and they miss. If they play a fast thing, you're faster. If they play a mid-speed thing, you're faster, and you also don't care if they even have a guard. It's disgusting. Oh, okay, this is just a range dodge.
Yeah, just a normal range dodge.
Yeah, like most range dodges, it doesn't actually... Well, not most. Like many range dodges that are free, it doesn't hit you at the ranges where it dodges.
Oh, finally, to a character with reasonable cards.
Hey! This is actually like a halfway sane shape. Have we seen range 4 to 7 printed on any other card?
4 to 7 is among the rarest range bands.
We will be seeing it again soon, and we'll talk about that later in particular, because as we transition from Fireballs to design, I've got a character I want to talk about that's going to come out soon. So this is 4 to 7, 4, 3, 4, and I think I remember the way you put it when we last talked about it was, this says, if you're sitting at range, you can't just block. You got to do something. You also can't safely cross out.
In a lot of ways, it's like a stronger and more punishing version of Guile's Sonic Boom in how it interacts with other cards. It is a little bit riskier because Sonic Boom has 5 guard and also has the after moves, which allows you to use it just for positioning. This is just a pure punish tool, but it is very punishing, especially in the hands of Heidi.
Yeah, this often has better stats than it appears. It has kind of an interesting profile, though. At speed 3, 4 guard, and only 4 damage, printed at least, it feels like it should be a mid-speed because that ignore armor, but even though it has the properties of a mid-speed in the normal meta, this punishes fast fireballs more than anything else. So I would actually say it's a slow fireball, right?
Yeah, and in the same way I would class Sonic Boom as a slow fireball.
Yeah, against other slow fireballs, it trades down, but that just makes it less good in that interaction. It doesn't make it not a slow fireball.
And this is E-combo, but a fireball.
Emergency combo from Z Viper's kit. Yeah, it has the +2 power field continuous boost and play effect, which can be terrifying because this can turn this with 1 light boost into a 3 to 6, 7, 6 if Heidi's in Exceed mode, thanks to her Exceed ability. It does have the normal Heidikin stat line, so it kind of fits in the middle of our thing.
And what you just described with that light and Exceed mode interaction is basically a unholy combination of Ken and Ryu's fireballs.
Yep. So yeah, this has underwhelming stats in the face of it, meaning it is one of our kind of mediocre, middling fireballs, but with 1 boost in play, it immediately shoots into one of the other corners of faster mid-speed.
Or, you know, sometimes you're the yes.
or this one over here.
Oh man, this card is infamous. I'm glad this is in the deck.
Yes. All right, so this is an amazing card. Here's why. It is speed 2. No armor, no guard, and the character it's on doesn't have any way to pump that short of playing boosts beforehand. It's not a fast dive. It's not a range-based dodge. It loses to every form of fireball, and it loses to cross. This is a dive, except incredibly bad.
It's like literally the opposite of inevitability. It's kind of amazing.
Yep. It is specifically good at doing two things. If you have some kind of guard on it, just by boosting something else, then it can deal with various things. It becomes a cross counter in that guard, right? It has before close forward, so it's a cross counter. If you don't have those, what this does is it says to the opponent, oh, do you not have any ranged options? Okay, I'll just hit you for free.
Yeah, you'll probably like roll into a sweep, but Gabrick has a tool to make that not quite as free to play.
Yeah, he's not overly concerned about trading down at range 1 in particular, because he's likely to win the next strike. But yeah, that's actually, yeah, it is inverse inevitability. Inevitability is the unreasonably good at everything, and this is the amazingly bad at everything. Yeah. I've been
I'm a little sad that
we're going
Gabrick,
slow, but we'll be going faster as we categorize
yeah.
more of these, don't worry.
Luckily, Red Horizon does actually have sane shapes for a lot of things that we can go, yep, this is similar to that.
Yep. Yeah, once we're out of, like, there will be a couple unique shapes we talk about in Season 2, and then most everything is going to get sorted very quickly, and then we'll talk about Season 3. And Season 3 is basically, what are the breakpoints that make this happen, and how do some characters break them? Inky Thresher, this is just a slow fireball, and it's kind of a mediocre one. It doesn't work at longer ranges.
It's got stun immunity, though, which is great.
Stun immunity is very good. It means it has better uses as not a fireball, but as dealing with things like Spike and Sweet. Alright. This is a little bit peculiar. It's another all-arounder fireball. So the guard at the average speed mean that it can trade up against fast fireballs, but also tends to be able to, if you initiate in particular, outspeed mid-speeds. And then the after means it can avoid slows. So it's deceptively good. Like, mediocre at everything, but still actually remarkably good because of it.
It is an incredibly playable card.
Yep.
Oh my, this is the best.
So comically, this is a mid-speed and a slow. It has stun immunity, so it punishes anything faster. It's a mid-speed because it deals 9 damage at speed 4, which well outpaces anything defensive.
Yeah, stuff like this you'll also see more with Ultras, is they'll overlap in rolls, because Ultras are allowed to get pretty extra.
Yep. It is not strictly unbeatable, but it's pretty darn good. The stun immunity also means it deals with mid-speeds pretty well. The only thing it loses to is the dives and fast dives, so not quite unbeatable, but...
I think the highlight of this card is opponents cannot move you.
That is the most ridiculously extra thing ever. But it does mean that low tiger shot at range 4 is not going to beat it.
This card is disgusting.
Yeah, this is a fast fireball that quickly accelerates to become almost unbeatable. Thankfully, they did luck into a stat line that wasn't totally busted. It only hits 5 power, which is notably 1 less than it takes to break the guard breakpoint for slow fireballs.
Yep. As an opener, though, it's...
As an opener, it's basically unbeatable. You just stand there and you hit them for 3.
Oh, hey, look, a reasonable Alice card. This is rare footage of...
This is true. So this thing she'll usually want to use to get out of melee if she needs to, but it's also just kind of a fast poke from starting positions. Hits for 5, so it's deceptively good, but that's just because she's Alice.
Yeah, even reasonable Alice cards will end your life.
Yep. Alright, we are finally through Red Horizon. So you've seen a lot of the general shapes of things. You might notice we're a little bit lacking in regularly shaped dives. It's not very common to have a regular dive because you already have one. Most
should have
specials are going to be a spin on it.
Gabrick's dive in here, although it is kind of unreasonable, but it is about as close to get to a regular dive shape.
You're right, I actually skipped over Perilous Descent entirely. Yeah, so it is a regular dive. It's a 1/4/4, I believe, with before Advance 3. The difference is that it has Ignore Guard, which means that it doesn't lose the things dive loses to.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just said it doesn't lose.
It loses to fast fireballs.
Fair.
It loses to something. All right, let's sort these through. Sort through these a little faster. Tropical Chalice, it's stun immune. Again, it only is a projectile as far as range 4 is concerned.
Yeah.
And damage-wise, it's kind of mediocre, but it can trade decently because of its hit effect.
Propeller Dagger, that's a range dodge.
Correct. The after effect, as you might have seen in the game with Taxi earlier, he was hoping to use it for mobility primarily, and that is what it is used for here. This is an average fireball, right?
Yeah, it's generically statted, and also expensive, but you do get positioning manipulation, which is really good and unusual for fireballs.
Yeah, this can actually make it probably a mid-speed because it can generally beat slows by putting them out of position.
Yeah.
So I'll put it over there. Alchemy Coin, slow fireball.
Yeah, kind of mediocre, but it is a slow fireball, definitely.
Doesn't do much damage, lets you draw cards. Mobile Gear, fast dive.
Yeah.
Yep, speed 5 dive basically with longer.
Another fast dive, Drunken Rampage.
Yep, before advance 3, and then this is oh, this is not what I thought it was. This looks like a melee attack, but Pookie can very quickly get some boost into play that turn this into just a card that doesn't really lose to anything.
1 to 5 with a million guard and hits for like 8.
Yes, and usually speed 3 even. So. Interestingly, this is a card that is either good at nothing or good at everything. I'm going to put it, like, over next to the unbeatable stuff.
Yeah, as printed, and because of how Pookie's boosts work, it is, like, a slow mid-speed-ish kind of deal. But since it's kind of generally builds your unbeatable version of Long the Tooth, it probably does deserve to be over there.
Mm-hmm. Just requires extra resources. This is... Oh, hey, finally, a normal dive.
Yep, this is a 2 to 5 dive.
Yep.
Pretty regular.
Yep. He often plays it with extra speed, but that's just because he likes having boost in play. So this is a fast dive that doesn't hit from starting positions, which means it's usually only going to be used as a assault-like for a range dodge.
Yep.
And it only closes, so it's less flexible. But it still fills that role when Carl needs it. And most importantly, even if you get hit, you get in a little bit more, which leaves you in a less bad position the next turn. That can be a big deal when you're up against characters with actual fireballs.
And Carl is a character that, despite having this weird anti-fireball tool, as I mentioned with Sonic Comet, this is not a dominant range threat. This is, I poke you out, and I still have it, so I can gain advantage and get some free gauge next turn.
Right. If you try to punish him with some sort of mid-speed that doesn't have any defenses on it, he can just kind of poke you and be like, nope, sorry. I'm not going to get beaten by fireballs today. Oh boy. Yeah, so this fills the role of being a regular dive. It loses to fast fireballs. It completely crushes anything slower than it because you're playing it from range. It's a little bit funny in that regard. It's not a normal shape, but I feel like in its role in the fireball meta, it's just a dive.
Yeah, within the context of Zolt's kit, this is a positioning manipulation tool that hits, which is important to Zolt.
Yep.
In addition to being a ludicrous punish tool if the opponent makes a mistake.
Yep. Alright, this is a whip. This is not a very common shape, but it's a pretty good one. It's an attack that just kind of doesn't lose at its maximum range because you get enough positioning control to be safe everywhere. This is, in the fireball meta, a mid-speed. Because you have the positioning to just not lose to things, but if you get stunned, you get stunned.
And notably, in the normal melee meta of Exceed, this is also still just a mid-speed.
Yep. Beats you if it's faster, loses if it's slower. Alright. This is a slow fireball, but it's also kind of a bad one. Only works at, 1 through 4, which at 5 or greater does nothing for you. It does let you draw some cards, so it has a use, but not a very good one.
It also is kind of a cross counter. I think it could fit in either.
Yeah, I should probably call it a cross counter. The other interesting thing about this that makes it unusual is it has 6 guard, which is very rare on anything designed to interact with fireball meta.
We'll get to hear me complain about Dark Thoughts, because Anro's wrong.
Alright, plays with Fervor. So this is actually just a fast dive. You can see that it's above curve and it advances, so fast dive. Oh, hey, a real projectile. 2 to 5, 2/5, except that the hit effect is usually like +7 power or something.
Let's play a game. It's
Yeah.
I win.
This is an incredibly good attack, and it also has a pretty standard fireball profile. You'll actually see this 2 to 5 and speed 5, or thereabouts, stat line crop up.
Yep.
We'll show you the foundation when we get to Season 3, but it's going to go into the unbeatable category.
Oh, speaking of Dark Thoughts, this card, I hate this card. Why does it have 6 guard? Jeez.
This thing gets to have nice things that nobody else does. So this is a slow that doesn't lose to mid speeds, except for the ones that ignore guard, which are actually very rare. Like you saw them in Season 1, you're not going to see very many other than that. It has 6 yards, so it tanks through everything, and it does 6 damage, so it trades up against everything.
2 to 5, so it's also a cross counter at relevant ranges.
Yep. This isn't actually unbeatable, but it's kind of over there. It's one of the best fireballs around.
Speaking of really good cards, although among the ranged meta, it is actually kind of mediocre because it's literally the generic Hadoken stat line, but with After Advance or Retreat 3, which is amazing.
Yes. Is this
So
a
it's-
mid-speed? I guess it's a mid-speed.
It is a mid-speed due to the After Advance.
Yeah, do the After Advance because you can jump into range. It's pretty underwhelming as they go. It's not very punishing. It just changes position. Before close 2, range 1 to 2, speed 5, fast dive.
Yep. A very, very good fast dive, which
yes.
Eternalist needs good cards, so...
Yep. Southpaw. So there's a few things with this shape. You'll notice it is After Advance 4, meaning if you're at range, you can play this and duck into their minimum range, because this is going to be faster than most projectiles.
Yep. It's a cross that moves forward, so you can use it like cross, but move forward instead of back, which is useful. Also, I'm glad that you put in Southpaw and not both. Because Zolt also has this card, and I don't think it was in
I was about to say, I think I might have just... I probably did that on purpose. I can't imagine I would have just skipped cross-up.
Yep.
Oh well. Nightmare Terrors. So 2 to 5.
Oh, this card is great.
This doesn't lose. Like, it beats mid speeds because it has stun immunity. It beats fasts because it has stun immunity and a lot of power, and it beats slows because again, stun immunity, a lot of power, and also you can't die. So in the fireball meta, this card is dominant. Like you have to find a way to deal with this, or you lose the game.
And zoners, a lot of them will have tools that allow them to answer this card, but a character that just happens to have a fireball is less likely to be able to answer tears with their ranged options.
Mm-hmm. Alright. We could talk about a lot more of these, but you're getting us into the general shapes. I want to jump over to Season 3 so we don't spend all day literally going through every card in the game. Is that alright?
Yep. That is perfectly fine, because we get to talk about some of the things that kind of solidify the rules.
Yep.
Zangief has multiple range dodges. We can just kind of skip over them.
Yeah, like this one has the actual effect that dodges. This one has the after effect that dodges. This is a dive.
Yep, an incredible dive.
Tons of damage, but it's mostly just a dive unless you're exceeded, and then it's a fast dive. Cross counter before close 2 with 4 guard. Why does... Okay, apparently all of Vega's attacks are in here. That is spiky, but it's still essentially just a dive as far as the fireball man is concerned.
Yep.
Same as this one.
This is a fast dive.
Yep. Thank you, Vega, for having a
is
deck full of dives.
The fast dive.
Yes. This is actually one of the fastest things in the game, if it gets to be.
And here is a fun shape to talk about. I think it's actually worth spending a little bit of time on this. This is a fast fireball. This is a fast fireball, but it doesn't tend to lose to other things. And if you do happen to trade with Tiger Cannon, you have an advantage, and you just hit him with low Tiger Shot, so you won anyways.
Yeah, is that the next one down? Nope. There we go, low Tiger Shot, 3 to 8. This is the card that makes Sagat dominant at range. This card, well, okay, can't talk about that character yet. I was about to say, New is all about projectiles, and thanks to low Tiger Shot, Sagat is competitive with her. This is an amazing slow projectile. I don't know how to say it more strongly.
It is among the best fireballs that have been printed, along with normal Tiger Shot.
Yep.
These both are
line is a lot more underwhelming, but it is pretty much just as unbeatable whenever he decides to play it.
And in addition to that, I love the design of this card. I don't actually critical it very often. I think the critical is kind of a trap, but it allows you to manipulate the resource of your choice, whether that be hand sizes or gauge,
Yep. There's
which
an interesting
is
little facet about
really
this,
awesome.
which is if you play a raw Tiger Shot in turn 1, you don't get the full value of your hit effects. You need to throw a reading into the mix or play an EX or do something else in order to be able to have a discard pile so that you gain extra gauge, which means that Tiger Shot as a dominant opener is counterbalanced by needing to do something else to get full value out of it. That's also true. Well, yeah, there's a card in Season 5 which has the same feature, but we made it a force special so that it actually gives itself the discard pile that it needs.
Yep.
Yeah, so these, we're starting to get to the really iconic shapes. So Tiger Shot is fast when he plays it. Tiger Cannon is unbeatable. It actually can lose to slows, but like, you're Sagat. You trade once with a slow, and then you have low Tiger Shot, so you're fine. And then low Tiger Shot is the incredibly good slow.
And humorously, Sagat also has a fast dive.
Yeah, for some reason.
One of the best fast dives too. It is an amazingly disgusting card.
Yep, this tends to be speed 6 and often does 8 damage. Yikes. Alright, here we go. This is another card that just doesn't lose. Now, it's possible, of course, for these to lose. We say they don't lose. They can get poked out by incredibly fast cards, like the Speed 6 anti-fireballs or the Speed 7 anti-fireballs Season 1 in particular. But, in general, this shape of card is incredibly reliable.
It is incredibly rare for Metsu Hidoken to lose when it is played. And luckily, if you don't want to play it, like, just look at that boost.
Yep. Yep. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so the thing that makes this unbeatable in a few ways is 7 damage means it stuns everything. And if by some chance you don't stun everything, you have an after effect that says move up to 2 spaces, meaning get out of whatever range band you don't want to be in.
Yep.
Like, the only way this loses to anything is if you're, like, in the middle of a huge swath of stun immunity and you can't get out of the way. But there is no range band I can think of that is that wide for stun immunity, not counting, you know, inevitability over there.
The card that doesn't exist.
Yes, the card that just doesn't exist. Oh, hey, look, Hadouken. So
About as iconic as you can come. This is the fast fireball.
yes. This is kind of the foundation of what a fast fireball can be. We don't really do speed 7 ranged attacks anymore. They are a bit much. Even if they only do 1 damage, that's a bit much. Speed 6, though. Speed 6 is fine.
Yeah, especially within the context of like Ryu, even though he refunds the gauge when he hits, and he will hit, like he's committing something up front for his speed 6 nonsense card. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You can't do it from turn 1. That helps a lot. Tatsu, this is a cross counter. Like.
Yep.
Easy to tell that one. Cross counter, funnily enough.
A very big cross counter.
Yep. Didn't steal 7 or 9 damage, but it's cross counter.
Regular dive, really goofy one.
Yep. Cross counter.
Cross counter, really huge cross counter. And actually, if you play cross to that, you are crying.
Oh yeah. Cross counter.
Cross counter. And here is
here we go.
kind of like if you want to just at a glance what a mid speed fireball is, 3 to 6, 6-4.
Yeah. So that's 6 power. Means you crush the guard of the 5 guard slow fireballs.
And this is how you arrive at quality meme strats like stand at range 6 against Sagat.
Yep.
As Ken.
And just wait for him to strike, because if he does, you can actually beat low Tiger Shot. Unless he like face up EXs it, but then you just play EX Crit Hadouken. And then he suffers. Oh man. Yeah, that's a scary stat line.
Really huge.
Yeah, this is huge.
Speed fireball. This is actually like bordering on unbeatable.
I think this is actually unbeatable, yeah, because it can lose to a mid speed if it's on defense, but if you initiate, it doesn't lose to anything.
But luckily, it has one of the best boosts in the game on it. So
yeah, it's really hard to play this
which
attack.
like you can say that's true about all of these. So
yeah, these have some really bonkers good stat boosts.
janky range dodge.
It is a very janky range dodge. You don't usually use it for that, but you can. Oh, hey, Sonic Boom. Alright, so this is a slow fireball shape. It's actually interesting because it is... So I talked about how Artillery Cannon is like a bad slow fireball. This is a good slow fireball. Because initiating, that's speed 3. Sorry, either initiating or not. I was thinking about Sagat there. This is speed 3, and it does 6 damage. So, you can actually crush a slower fireball that fits into the same profile by dealing too much damage. That's why Sagat has to actually think about face-upping his low Tiger Shot, even though normally there's, like, not much benefit to it, especially on front side. And Exceed Mode, of course, he gets extra power and he wants that.
Extra power is excellent.
But yeah, like if Sagat puts this on top of his deck and then Guile initiates from range 8, Sagat has to think twice because he can lose his low Tiger Shot. And that's a problem. This is, funnily enough, an anti-projectile. It's not really a projectile, but
Yep.
it is a range dodge, as you might guess from the text on it that says attacks range 2 to 5 don't hit you.
And this is a kind of middle
the infamously mediocre card.
This was actually in our preliminary discussion on this. This is the one that kind of, like, you build from Godoken into a real fireball.
Yep. 4/4/4. Not too impressive. So here's what's important about Godoken, right? This is what's important about Godoken. Dan has Dan Kukyaku. That is a really fast dive. So when Dan strikes, you go, oh, the obvious thing is Dan Kukyaku. I'll play a focus or a sweep, which means Godoken doesn't move, and you whiff.
Yep, and Dan is unusual in that he has the three-way opening mix-up of move, don't move, and cross counter or not, but his cross counter is not in the form of a fireball.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that speed size with cross to beat it.
Yep. So let me talk about this real quick, because I think we've now established like the main things about the fireball meta. The hugely important thing about the fireball meta is just having a fireball means you have an opening mix-up. You don't have to play dive. Like, you can strike, and maybe it's dive, maybe it's your fast dive, or if you have a fireball, maybe it's a projectile that doesn't move you, which means you're not vulnerable to any of those things that actually counter dive and trade up with it.
I think also enough examples have hit the table to give a good idea of, like, you can kind of look at what your character's kit has and be like, and go, okay, I have a fast and a slow. I'm Sagat. I have a fast and a slow. So I am mildly afraid of mid speeds, especially if they initiate on me. But I have answers to the fast fireballs, and I kind of have answers to the mid speed fireballs if I'm initiating within the context of Sagat. But a lot of characters are not Sagat, and they will have their 5 speed actually printed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's see. So Rachel has a Tiger Shot, which is speed 5 printed. Now, that's not the one I was going to talk about, though. By the way, it's not called Tiger Shot, obviously. That would be a little bit silly. So there was an interesting... So we're going to talk about power budget now, if you're good to transition.
That seems like a good opportunity to transition into it.
Yeah. So power budget is a kind of an interesting design concept in Exceed. The idea is, and nothing illustrates this better than Season 1. You can have cards that suck. You can have cards that do exactly one thing, and only one thing, and they're only good for that one thing, and most of the time they're not useful. And then you can have a bunch of other cards that are all great.
Shoot, we could even stick with Sagat. Sagat has a kit that is full of amazing cards. Yeah. It also is the kit that brought us low step kick.
There it is. Thank you. Yeah, so here is one of the most underwhelming cards of all time. I mean, yeah.
If you want to quote unquote fix low step kick, which you don't, that is what we were getting at. You don't want to fix low step kick, because if you make this good by giving it 3 power printed, Sagat actually would be broken.
Yes. So for those who haven't quite put it together, low step kick's important because 2 printed power means that ignore guard doesn't work on focus. So if the opponent has defend and an EX, or they play focus and they have 2 armor, which means you don't penetrate their armor, you deal no damage, you don't stun, because you're not ignoring armor here. Which means low step kick is really bad. And keep in mind, you only get that ignore guard if you critical it to begin with. He doesn't have anything that makes his criticals free. You're spending a gauge on this. And even if you get through, 2 damage. This is like kind of an amazingly bad card. It does one job. The job is you can sometimes turn off sweep.
You're Sagat, so it gives you incentive to flip, because then low step kick actually becomes a pretty reliable card. But I will often hold this card as a surprise EX, since 6 speed, 3 power, ignore guard is a reliable defensive option against almost everything.
This is true. I was going to talk about one of my personal favorite examples of this. All right, flipping act kick, above curve, opener. It's fast dive. Got a strong critical on it. Got a really good boost, actually. The boost is better than it looks because it's on Chun-Li. She really values gauge. Spinning bird kick, cross counter. Also good against projectiles because it's got some guard and lets you advance 3. Gives you some positioning control. Gets even better if she's in exceed mode. Has an amazing boost on it, which just basically says win the strike. Like, strike now and also win the strike. We have a slow fireball here with unusually good defenses. If she criticals, this has 4 armor, 4 guard, which is well above the normal numbers that are, like, allowed. So,
this is a really, really janky block.
Yep. Very, very good slow fireball. And again, overhead, holy crap, this boost. This is often used just for checkmates. Is go, oh, you have 3 life, ignore armor, grasp, you're dead.
You have 10 life, ignore armor, Hosenka, dead.
Yep. Yeah, Hosenka, this really, really strong. It's dive, but you'll often play it with something like this stun immunity boost over here, so that it's a stun immune, 11 power attack that reaches across the whole board. And then you got head stomp, which is like, as an attack, pretty good, 5-6 damage. Advance 3, but it also has this boost on it, which again, plus on speed, hit gain advantage.
Yeah.
Look at all these good cards.
As cards come, head stomp is on the mediocre side, but luckily you can always play it sideways.
All right, look at all these good cards. What happened? Like, what did I do to deserve this? So,
you're Chun, so everything else is good.
Yeah. So lightning legs is not a problem. It's a card that a lot of people like to complain about because it's really unimpressive. It's 1, 2, 3, 6, which is like, okay, that's on curve, but you don't evade anything. So it's an on curve option that it's a cross that loses to the things that cross beats. And if you're at range 2, it even loses to spike, which is pretty unusual. It has an after effect, which is only any good if you critical it to begin with, and if you do, you lose gauge, because you spend a gauge and you don't get gauge for your hitting with your attack. It also has an incredibly underwhelming boost on it, which means you can't just play it sideways and have it be awesome. It's like, oh, I can use an attack a second time. That's nice when it's good, but often the situation's already changed, so yeah. This is not a very good card. It's an okay card sometimes. So's this. And actually, so's this. Which is larger for some reason. I'm not sure why. These are all great examples of power budget in action. These characters have power budget put other places. If you look through Akuma's kit, you'll notice the same kind of thing. All of Akuma's attacks are really underwhelming, with one exception. Go Shoryuken. Go Hadoken is also pretty good, to be honest, but Go Shoryuken is really, really good. It's an above curve attack at range 2.
It is really good out of the box, we should say, because I would definitely say that most of Akuma's power budget is in Hyakishu, but that's deceptive.
Yes, Hyakishu is deceptive, and then a lot of his power budget is on this boost.
Yes.
Like, so much. So this is a +3 speed boost. It has some other text on it. Don't worry about that. If you're playing Akuma properly, it's a +3 speed boost. You're either playing a power boost and then EXing, or you're playing a power boost and criticling, or you're an exceed when you're just criticling. This boost means you can confirm a ton of damage automatically no matter what. That's incredible.
This is important to Akuma because this is basically what makes him function as a character, because otherwise he would have a bunch of mid-speed garbage that he would have to make insane bets on.
Yep. Yeah, his whole kit is on curve or below curve, with the exception of Go Shoryuken. Go Shoryuken is above curve. It's speed 7 and it hits at range 2 because it has before close 1. This is vital to his kit. It is absolutely essential that when he does something that makes him scary, when he gets up close to you, or he gets to range 2 or something, you can't just cross out and feel safe. If you could do that, you go to range, he's got a projectile. It doesn't recur itself, so he only uses it a couple of times. And, well, he has no reason to critical to get big damage in if he's not certain that he can outspeed you. This also has healthy effects on his overall gameplay patterns, but I'm not going to go into that too much right now. Suffice to say, this attack existing in his kit makes the game more interesting, and it lets Akuma function in the way that he was intended. This boost existing lets Akuma function in the way he was intended, and it makes the game, let's say, a lot more exciting for at least one player. So, what is
to be fair?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has multiple answers to I hate this boost. You have tech, you have parry, you have reading if he slaps it down. Reading is an awkward thing to bet on, but it is possible to assemble a reading that allows you to defuse this boost.
This is true. If you're at range 1, you call Spike. If you're at range 2 or greater, you call Grasp and hope you land. But yeah, so putting all this power into these cards so that they have such a huge effect on gameplay means that he has some otherwise kind of underwhelming attacks. On curve, below curve. Below curve, although actually deceptively good. This is a strong mid-speed, as mid-speeds go, but it's still a mid-speed. It's not reliable. This is pretty good, if you critical. It can actually lose really badly to slow fireballs, though.
Until you're in Exceed mode, and then it often beats them.
Yeah. And then this is undercurve, obviously. So he has a bunch of stuff that's like, mid-speed, mid-speed, mid-speed. Pretty decent projectile. Pretty decent. On curve. Nothing really spectacular here. Yeah, that's about what he got. And the way he works with it is he goes, well, at some point you're gonna have to deal with a card you can't deal with. So every strike from now till then, I'm gonna make you guess whether or not I'm playing it.
Yep. You get to play the Uzugai Hisatsu Go Shoryu game all day, and if the opponent guesses wrong, they will blow up. Yep.
If you try to sweep or focus the Go Shoryu and you play Uzugai Hisatsu, then they suffer, and it's pretty great. So this is kind of what we're talking about when we say power budgets. It's the idea that you can give a character some really strong cards that are really spectacular and effective and important, but if you do, you have to give them other cards that counterbalance that. Season 1 is actually infamous for this. Characters like Gabrick in particular, like you go, oh, where's my garbage dive? Rolling extra tab. This is force. Like I don't play this unless I know my opponent just doesn't have anything ranged and I'm at range 5. And then it's fine. But like not even that good. He has other cards that are actually quite good. Perilous Descent, which I forgot to take out here. It's like a dive shade. It's a dive with ignore guard. Shrug Off is like mediocre. Lunar Launcher is mediocre. Neckbreaker is actually pretty terrifying, but like not reliable. Where's his power budget then? Character ability, ultras. Like that's where his power budget went.
His ultras are so good, and they have, well, one of them also has an amazing boost on it.
Yes, one of his ultras has the boost +3 power in strike, which is horrifying. Like holy crap. As Taxi alluded to earlier, like the number 3 changes things a lot in Exceed. You get +3 power, and you're striking. You change the math on a lot of interactions, and that's really, really scary. Excuse me. His ultras also have absurdly high printed damage. It's like, oh, that's where his power budget went. We tease Natali for having bad guards, like this garbage projectile over here. She also has an attack that hits for 12 at speed 7. And she will hit you with it at least once per game. Ideally twice.
It's about as guaranteed as a card can be.
Yep. And it sucks up so much of her power budget that most of her other cards are just trash. And her character ability is almost always bad. So, if you're looking at designing characters, you need to figure out first what is the things... Well, firstly, I would say you need to figure out things that are most iconic. Then you need to figure out what is most important, right? So, in the Street Fighter set, the Fireball recursion effect, which was kind of tested in Season 2 and 1, like Gale Blade was the Season 1 test. Season 2 had Aria of the Winds, which I never did take out, I don't think.
Oh, luckily Cyrus was close to the top, so...
Here's Aria of the Winds. The not quite prototypical, but roughly prototypical recurring Fireball. You play EX Aria of the Winds, and you get the second copy back. And then you can play the second copy, and then return something else. And you get to kind of bounce your projectiles around. It's nice. Um, but yeah, so like in Street Fighter Exceed Street Fighter, it was important that fireballs be like a core part of the gameplay loop. So there's a bunch of characters who have fireballs, and several of them can recur them to be able to reuse them, so that threat remains present as they continue to play footsies and continue to play the game. Do you have any comments on that? Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
I do, but I think you should keep talking for the moment.
Gotcha. Yeah, so making these card designs where it's like, the Tiger Shot that pushes you back to enhance Sagat's Keep Away. The Hadouken that lets you loop it over and over so that you can continue to represent that threat and never be forced to waste it. Especially, well, this Hadouken, because it's very reliable. Because that's speed. Like, these are things that, once they're represented, they comprise a significant part of that character's identity in how they interact with other characters, especially in the fireball meta.
And this effect wins games. Like, we saw it earlier against Reggie. Both Ken and Ryu Hadouken won you the game.
Yep. It is incredibly important. And it's kind of amusing that like both Ken and Ryu are characters that work just fine at ranges 1 and 2. But they have these fireballs because with these fireballs, they present threats at range that you have to find a way to deal with, or you just die. So, it's part of their identity, and it's part of the core gameplay loops of, well, original Street Fighter, right? Like, the projectile game and figuring out how to deal with characters' projectiles is a really big deal.
I would, and I've mentioned this a few times, but I would note that it is humorous how powerful the Exceed Street Fighter fireballs are, because oftentimes the history of Street Fighter is, man, fireballs are way too strong, we need to nerf them. So the fireballs in Exceed are second probably only to SF2 and how powerful and centralizing to the character's identity and kit as they are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But that's fine. SF2 is the one that people have played more than probably any other Street Fighter game. So the fact that fireballs in Street Fighter 3 are not nearly as good and have much different utility is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily what people think of.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting. This actually comes back to something that you were saying earlier. So whether you have fireballs and what kind of fireballs you have defines how you interact with a large portion of the cast. So we pulled out a bunch of Season 1 characters, a good handful of Season 2 characters that we weren't even part of the way through. That's
yeah, we were like a third of the way through this deck.
Yeah, sorry, I went overboard pulling everything out. And then we didn't even touch Season 4, which has, as you can see, its own share of projectiles and anti-projectiles. Like, most of the cast has something about the ranged meta, some way to interact with it, whether it's ranged dodge, regular dive, fast fireball, mid-speed, slow cross, or, something completely unreasonable. But usually cost gauge. So, learning what your options are and what they do and how they interact with the ranged meta, that's part of mastering your character, and that's part of your character's identity. So if you're designing a character, if you're looking at how a character is designed, you need to think about, in particular, like, what your shapes should be. On that note, mind if I bring up that Season 5 character?
Go for it.
There was a really interesting interaction we had in Season 5 design, where I was working on a character and I made some card shapes. And of course, they were dumb and broken. But the second time I made them, when I remade them, we came back to them, and the character I'm talking about is 9. 9 has quite a few projectiles, at least 4 that I can think of in her kits. She has potent zoning tools. One of her fireballs, let's see, how deep is Minato in here? One of her fireballs...
Oh, dang, we didn't talk about Straight Fire. It's fine.
Ah, shoot, missed it, yeah. One of her fireballs is shaped a bit like this. 3 to 4, speed 6. 2. Not much damage. Doesn't have this hit effect, mind you.
Yeah, in terms of hit effects, without getting too specific, it's closer to a Tiger Shot in terms of shape. It's a really fast Tiger Shot.
Yes.
Specifically the positioning manipulation aspect of Tiger Shot, not the I gain a million resources part of Tiger Shot.
Right. There was an earlier version of it which actually had even stronger displacement effects than the final version, which we found out was not particularly okay. Here's the thing about zoners. They tend to back themselves into corners. So when I had this thing read push 2, like hit push 2, it meant that the zoner stays put and the opponent gets pushed back. And now it's on the opponent to spend resources to move in, and then the zoner can, play something else that forces the opponent out of position. And it's not particularly healthy. It's far better for the zoner to be forced to back up to do their things. Quick backdash is like an incredibly good boost, but it's retreating movements. You push Sagat toward the corner, and it becomes a lot less useful.
It also is important to note that when it comes to positioning manipulation, because Sagat actually has a lot of it, the reliable positioning manipulation is all push 1.
Mm-hmm.
On both Tiger Shot and on low Tiger Shot. Push 1 is something that every character can always do something about outside of the most unusual situations. And in those unusual situations, Sagat has already won. It's not even worth playing the game if you have no cards and you're stuck at range against Sagat.
If you have no cards in hand or deck and Sagat hits you with low Tiger Shot, it pushes you to, say, range 5, you're dead. Like, unless you can top deck something that has a dodge attacks at range 5, which is not going to happen, you're just dead.
So Sagat actually has some big push effects, so they're really big splashy ones. They're also the ones I almost never actually use as a Sagat main, because one of them is a risky bet because you have to stun the opponent, and the other one is on a card that is so unreliable that I regret not criticaling it more often than I critical it.
Alright, so these are, Tiger Knee, which has critical after the opponent is stunned, push 3, and Tiger Uppercut, right? Which is critical hit, push 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tiger Uppercut is pretty comical because this hit effect means it can lose the spike. And I have done this. More than once, actually. And Tiger Knee is an after if the opponent is stunned, which means you don't want to face up it because it's probably not going to stun because you're going to see it coming. So it's mostly used on defense, specifically as an assault counter. But you gotta got the reads.
When you got the reads, and if you're really confident, then sometimes you can just end the opponent's life, but...
Yeah, but you're better engaged to do it, and that's hard to do.
Sagat is a character that is not about making insane bets like that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. So let me talk about the other two of the other fireballs, or projectiles, I should say, in Nine's kit. One is a mid-speed. That one actually never changed very much. It's just an ignore armor card that is speed 3. So,
yeah, that card is annoying, but is perfectly fine within the context of her kit.
And
don't make that card without knowing what you're doing, I will say.
Yeah, that card in particular is... You'll be very excited when you see that card stat line, I'll tell you this. So it does 5 damage, ignoring armor at speed 3. 5 damage, that's an important number. Because ignoring armor, but not guard, means it's going to not stun focus, it does crush block, and it does not beat any of the standard ranged slow fireballs, which are shaped to have 5 guard or, for some reason, stun immunity in old cases. So those two shapes relatively standard. Like I said, I had to change the positioning effects on her fast projectile, but that was fine. The third one was the one that we actually had to work on quite a bit more. So this was an attack with very unusual range bands, which was range 4 to 7, speed 1, so, not fast. And at various points, the stats kind of went up and down. I initially created it with 6 guard, and I believe it was Blue who taught me down.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, this should be kind of sweepish, right? So it should be, where's Dark Thoughts? This is a reasonable card, right? Like, what's wrong with this? But here's the thing. At range 4 to 7, you're not interacting with the melee meta at all. 6 guard is a melee meta number. Like, Dark Thoughts has 6 guard, in part so that you can deal with numbers like sweep, right? Like, sweep hits for 6. You can actually trade with sweep at range 2 or 3.
Yeah, and notably, this is a card that, if you play it stupidly, has risk of getting spiked or dove.
Right.
4 to 7, you can dive it to make them miss, but like you can't. It's a little different in how it interacts.
Mm-hmm. Right, because one thing about 4 to 7 is if you're at 7, nothing beats it. Like, unless the opponent crosses out to range 8, and honestly, that's pretty fine. Like, you've got that other thing I mentioned. But, like, they can't play Assault or Dive to get in, because neither of them are going to get past range 4 if you start from 7. And, you know, like I said, crossing out is, like, kind of suicide. The other thing about that is that we gave it a recursion clause. I consider that very important to the identity of the move, in terms of how 9 uses that particular attack, was to be able to use it multiple times. But a recursion clause on that, with 6 guard, meant, well, she just kind of laughed at anybody who wanted to play the normal projectile game. Even if they had mid-speeds. It was a slow that beat mid-speeds handily. And also punished fast fireballs like nothing else. There's a few more details in the design of that card that I would love to talk about, but we don't really have time to get into it. Suffice to say that I did end up having to drop the guard because it was capital M, capital O, not okay. One thing I did get to do was make it a force special, which actually was a buff. You'll notice that the behavior of all the recurring fireballs is that they go to the top of your deck. Well, that's important. That was something that was done in Season 3. In Season 2 and earlier, they didn't go to top of the deck, they went to hands, with like one exception. Being on top of your deck means you can wild swing them. This lets you keep the pressure up, but it also means that you're taking an inherent risk. If it's on top of your deck and the opponent finds a way to beat it when they initiate on their turn, or by doing something else in their turn, then you have to have something else in your hand to respond with, because your wild swing isn't safe. If it's a force special, that rule breaks, because now you can invalidate it when you wild swing it and skip on to the next card. This means that that particular projectile in 9's kit was made unusually safe, which is one of the reasons I had to make concessions to not make it, you know, busted in other ways. That's kind of what I wanted to say about that. Was there anything else you want to say about that card? Or I guess anything. Like, we're basically out of time.
Not about that card in particular, but a conclusion that is nicely segued into from talking about that card, which is basically when you are designing a character's kit, you need to keep in mind what things they absolutely must have and must be memorable parts of their kit. Sagat is Fireball Man. Like, he is Fireball Man, so he has 2 of the strongest fireballs ever printed. 3 of the strongest fireballs ever printed. This one went into my hand, dang it.
I gotcha. I think. Oh, here's the other copy. It's fine. Yeah. Tiger Cannon, Tiger Shot, Low Tiger Shot.
So, someone could pick up Sagat, and knowing absolutely nothing about Exceed, they could assemble a game plan with Sagat just off of knowing that he is Fireball Man. So, you know, just do fireball stuff, you know? It won't necessarily be a very nuanced or good game plan, but it is the start of Sagat's level 1, basically. Like, this is the strategy that the opponent needs to learn how to fight, and then Sagat needs to learn how to fight how they learned how to fight.
Yep. If y'all want to know what that actually looks like, it looks like this. Hit with this when you have a discard, hit with this when you have a discard. That's 4 gauge. Hit with this, gain advantage, hit with this. You can literally play these cards in succession, provided that you start with some gauge, or start with some discard. Which is why it's kind of important that he doesn't. Alright.
So,
yeah. Any more thoughts? We should probably be wrapping up.
yeah. I guess just when you're making characters, know where you can make concessions and where you absolutely cannot. And that will hopefully allow you to make flavorful and interesting characters that are not broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do y'all have any questions, anything you want to know about or hear more about? This is technically the end of the time slots. I don't mind going over by just a little if you don't.
I am pretty awake, so, like, I'll stay as long as you're willing to have me on, basically.
Seems good. Yeah, if anybody... let me read up your chat. I haven't been keeping up very well. +3 power and strike sounds like fight. Yeah, you're not wrong. That is basically fight's ability, except you can do it on defense.
How do you beat world champions? Well, you see, Reggie, the real secret to being the best at Exceed is to never, ever play.
The only way to win is not to play.
I don't have strong opinions on Sydney and Serena. Sorry, Playman.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, so Dark
attacks
Thoughts.
are basically all projectiles. Like, that's just how they're structured. But they're projectiles that depend on the board state rather than just your relative position to the opponent. So they're projectiles that you need to actually think about in the context of normals. That's my, like, quick 2 cents on Sydney and Serena for people who are not familiar with them. Obviously, I know you are, Playman.
Their power budget. I mean,
I can talk about. I'll pull them out while you talk about Dark Thoughts if you wanted to elaborate on issues with Dark Thoughts.
So Dark Thoughts is actually pretty simple. Why I don't like this card, and it's that it loses to, or it beats Ken Hadoken, and oh, they trade even. No, they don't. This is like the most punishing sweep effect in the game.
Yes. Not only do you discard a card at random, she steals it, which is pretty appalling.
It is a slow fireball that does not interact in the way that. To be fair, this was a card that was designed before the rules as they were set. So it's fine that this card breaks the rules. There's a ton of cards on the table right now that break the rules.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab a couple others. Where's the Aquas? Hey.
Another card that is disgusting, and gain advantage is really, really annoying. I am more okay with Dragon Spine because after gain advantage within the context of the ranged game is a way to cut your losses if the opponent dives.
Right. Like, that is what this effect is actually for. It does perform some other functions occasionally, but that's on the Aquas pilot to use it well. By default, this is a, oh, you dove me, that's fine, I'm still going to take the next turn.
And, like, it will trade up on Ken Hadoken, but, like, the interactions are more sane than with Dark Thoughts, just because Dark Thoughts has such a ludicrously good hit effect on it.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let me grab a reference set of City and Serena. I think I kept one.
Oh, sorry. Not just a ludicrously good hit effect, a ludicrously good TF also.
Oh, yes, let's not forget that, actually. That transformation is... it causes some problems, actually, but apart from the problems, it is really, really good. Alright, let me take a quick look at City and Serena. Alright, so keeping in mind... And actually, no, let me go to the table for this, because otherwise it's impossible to keep in mind what I'm about to say. These ranges aren't what they say they are. Sydney plays normals. Serena plays these. Alright, so you asked about power budget. Now, first thing we notice about Sydney is that he has an action to spin a life to add the top card of his deck to his gauge. This is not a very good ability. It's not a very bad ability. The main drawback of this is, since it's the top card of your deck, you could actually flip something that you really want to have in hand, and he doesn't have any tools that help him with that. He doesn't have the ability to transform a card from a gauge that it's Imogene has, and he doesn't have any recursion effects like Rimless. So, yeah, he's actually taking a risk by doing this. But it's really thematic, so I still like it. Anyway. Alright, what do we got? Let's do speed order. Alright. Pardon me. Okay. I blame the Spore Burst for the sneeze. So, Choking Thorns. Alright, so there's a word that we use sometimes in Exceed, and especially when talking about card shapes, which is, like, characteristics of cards. Delta. Delta is really, really simple. Power plus armor. It's a little bit misleading, because, like, Cross often has a delta of 3, except Cross hits for 3 and then retreats out of range, meaning it has armor of infinity, which is, you know, like I said, it's misleading. That said, any card that is built to trade, we care about delta. Focus has delta of 6, Sweep has delta of 6, Choking Thorns has delta of 8. Wow. Yikes.
There's also another term that is thrown around a lot, especially when testing cards to determine if they're sane. Extra.
Yes.
This is about as extra as you can get for a card that is worthy of being printed.
Yep. Not only does it have stun immunity, which is an incredibly powerful effect, it also gains you a gauge no matter what. This is an unbelievably good card. Alright, I'm going to go on in a second, but Reggie asked for a shout out for Propeller Knight for doing cool Fireball meta stuff, even on turn 1. Yeah, that's true. Propeller Knight actually loves his opening mix-up, and his opening mix-up is pretty elaborate. He has a cross counter, which on turn 1 does hit you because of the nature of cross counters. It's a Tatsu, basically, except it's a Tatsu that pulls you instead of advancing. He has a fast Fireball, which pokes you, like at speed 5 for 3. A mid-speed Fireball, which... Wait, hold on. No, that's not a mid-speed. Cannonball is a bad slow Fireball, actually. It's 4 to 6 with 3 guard, right? And it's 4 power. But from starting positions, it does not crush slows. So from starting positions, it is a bad slow Fireball. If you start at range 5 or 6, then it is actually a mid-speed Fireball. This is an example of an attack whose properties change because of Propeller Knight's ability. He also has Swoop, which is actually a range dodge, because it has it's speed 7, and it says after advance up to 3, so he can use it to duck into the range of any projectile that you throw at him. Yeah, the slow Fireball does counter cross from starting positions, but it's not technically, like, or rather, it works as a cross counter, but it is unusually specific in that regard, since it has a minimum range of 4. So, like, cross has to retreat all 4, and then it works. Alright, shout out to Propeller Knight, he does cool stuff. Well, okay, sorry, if we're shouting at Propeller Knight, I have to shout out Treasure Knight, who is one of the best slow projectiles in the game.
So good.
Where is it? Yeah, so Fight has projectiles. We saw this in action earlier. Phaser is obviously an anti-projectile tool. Wrenching Whip is a whip. Talked about that a little bit on Zolt. Dive attack is fast dive. Wow, Beheader has a lot of options. Here we go. 3d6, 6, 2, 2, 5. So you'll note this is a slow Fireball with 7 defense instead of just 5. It also does the full 6 damage. So... value. Oh, and hey, look, it also has the hit effect, which makes the opponent discard a card at random. And by the way, if you were up against somebody with projectiles, they might like being at range, and this pulls them into the at range 2. Yeah, this just does everything.
And if you personally cut your losses because you have Focus's defensive stats at speed 2, then you can move yourself against like some annoying close range character.
Yep, and get out of melee. So this is actually an excellent card to talk about from a design theme real quick. This has the stats of a 4 special. It has Delta 8, right? And it will often get value out of... it will almost always get value out of armor because it's slow. It will often get value out of power, and if it doesn't, it will get value out of its advanced effects to just move a bunch of spaces without spending any force. It is a 4 special. It deserves to be a 4 special. Treasure Knight never pays force for this. Because of his character ability, this cost is always discounted, so he just never has to spend anything for this. Complained a couple times in the past about Treasure Knight just not kind of getting nice things. This is a nice thing that he does get, so it's absolutely worth highlighting.
This is when that change happened. This was something that excited me, even though at that time there was a problem of it not being clearly laid out, which now the card very clearly lays it out, that is how that interaction works, so it isn't a gotcha.
Yeah.
Which is good among Season 4, but Treasure gets to have that exciting, unfair interaction.
Yep.
On a really, really good card.
Yeah, this card is fantastic. I can't wait to show off some of the 4 specials in Season 5.
Oh, they're great.
On which note, by the way, Choking Thorns, which is not a Season 5 card, this deserves to be a 4 special, but it's not. Because we didn't have 4 specials in Season 2. This clearly is eating up a decent amount of power budget. It's a really good card. The only drawback of it is that its range is somewhat limited, so it's possible for you to be in situations... In fact, there's no way to set this up so that it's guaranteed to hit. Oh, well, hold on. Look at this. This boost... Don't read the attack. This boost says the opponent cannot move, you can still move them. If the opponent is anywhere in range of Choking Thorns, and you have Choking Thorns, you play this boost, and they either tech it, or they lose to Choking Thorns, period. That's really, really good. And honestly, it's why this card is, you know, not actually bad. The attack on it is pretty underwhelming. The attack is like, oh, I have a fast projectile, except it's not usually a projectile. In fact, most of the time that you want to play it, it's undercurve, because you're already next to your opponent. So, like, this is a speed 6 attack. You're at range 1. That means it's under curve. It's really awkward. And the after effects, which can pull the opponents closer to Serena, is something that you basically never want to do. So it's practically blank. The big, like, significance of this is in the Firewall meta, if you're at range, like, if they're at range from you and at range from Serena, this is a fast Fireball. It pokes at mid speeds, and that can be a big deal for mitigating damage. It's also often free gauge. That said, Vine Snare is so good, I don't see why you would ever use the attack.
Notably, with Vine Snare, most of the time, trap effects like this, and they do tend to also be called something trap, they have a way for the opponent to remove them by consuming their turn, but not their tech. This one does not have any of that. You need the tech.
Yep. You can't do anything to get rid of it, except for, like, strike, and then, of course, City and Serena still get their value. Alright, so Choking Thorns is fantastic. Vine Snare is great. Pea Shooter is pretty underwhelming. Okay, no, Pea Shooter is just kind of bad, honestly. Like, this has niche uses, but they're not very useful. Alright, it totally jumped around in speed order. Oh well. Blossom Haze. This is almost Profane Sanctuary, which is a card in Jeanette's kit. So, notably, from starting positions, this is actually a fast Fireball, because you start here, and it hits, and it's speed 5. So, fast Fireball. That makes it pretty good. The After +3 means that it actually trades better than normal against slow Fireballs. So, as far as the Fire Limit is concerned, this card is basically just kind of a unusually good fast Fireball. Yeah, I'd generally consider this a reliable card. Like, in my experience actually playing them, I think both the attack and the transformation are good. And I will usually try to land the attack instead of just transforming it from hand. Have you played any City and Serena?
Not really.
Okay.
I know how they play, but that's mostly from the other side of the table and
Makes
seeing
sense.
the tactics that they employ.
Yep. So, like, as a Fireball, this is a quality card. The opponent's job is mostly going to be to just be in your face a lot, which means this at speed 5 is not very impressive. So, you know, in terms of power budget, this is like middling, mediocre. Venom Lash. Again, we have the issue of its speed 4 and ranges are deceptive. So, like, it hits 2 through 4. So, like, the 3 outer edges from Serena. But often, the fight's going to be taking place near the corners, or the opponent will be close to you, which means speed 4 is super unreliable. This is, this also doesn't even stun slow Fireballs by any means, so this is actually just kind of a bad Fireball. It gets extra gauge, but meh. And the transformation is even more meh. I would actually consider this not to be a good card. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, or like, does your assessment differ at all?
Within the context of opening, this is the thing that beats cross, which is keeps the opponent honest and not just crossing out a Blossom Haze.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Otherwise, it is mediocre.
Yeah. So it has the role of the 4 to 6 range, because from starting positions that's what it is, which is I can hit you from here, and if you cross, I still hit you. Opponents will usually not want to cross against City and Serena because they are effectively a zoner. But yeah, it has a job to do. It's not very good. The transformation is also pretty underwhelming. It's more of this transformation is used in emergencies. You don't want to do this most of the time, but sometimes you just need gauge. All right, so we got our underwhelming, bad Spore Burst. This is kind of cool. So 0 to 2. So this hits the center 5 spaces of the arena normally. Push 3. If you want to push less than 3 at the top, you discard your gauge. So push 3. It doesn't say from the origin of this attack. It doesn't say from the source of the attack. It says push 3. So it pushes away from Sydney always. That's actually pretty useful. That means that if the opponent gets in your face turn 1 by like running in or something, or wrong one, running in, this is a sweep like that beats sweep, where you hit push 3, and then their sweep would miss. And 6 guard makes it pretty reliable. This also actually means that it is a slow fireball, because the spaces that it covers, if you're in the range of the fireball meta mattering, this has 6 guard and does 5 damage, so it's going to trade up against fast fireballs. Yeah. And it has an extra gauge effect sometimes, if they played focus or if you push them up to the wall. I would say this is good. I would put this alongside Blossom Haze of being like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's a decent, reliable card to lean back on when you've used your Ludicrous card.
Yep. It also has a good transform. This transform is not... this transform is good when you are very experienced at the game and you know when you need breakpoints. This is not a transform that you should use willy-nilly, because 1 gauge for 1 armor is actually a really bad rate. But sometimes, like, but +1 or +2 armor can mean that you're not stunned or that you don't die, and then you care an awful lot. Alright. Here we go. Now
Speaking of
the meat of the
Ludicrous cards.
Yes. Alright, so these are the exciting cards. I'm going to start with this one because it's really easy to evaluate this in my opinion. This is fantastic. Like, it's, well, okay. This isn't fantastic. This is very good. You have to have 2 gauge to play it, but if you hit, you refund it because you have the top 2, you discard your gauge, so it's free. It inflicts -1 gauge on the opponent by making them discard a card from their gauge. The only thing that's bad about it is that its stats are unimpressive. It does 4 damage, and that's not very much. This is actually like Kin's Shoryu. This is just a fast offensive card that, like...
It keeps the opponent honest.
Yeah. Like, you got a speed 7 card. You're at a range that's not 1. This is above curve. That's great. It doesn't do all that much damage, but if you have a power boost, you can easily convert it into damage with this. So you can boost Fierce, and then you still have this, and that's nice. The fact that it's free is why this is pretty good. Ooh, that's a really good boost. Nope, never mind. That is a... that's almost really good boost. If that didn't take cards from your hand, it would be great.
Yeah, then it would be, like, the boost on Firestream. I forget the name of it, because it's just, get the motor running.
Yeah, the engine starter on Devris's kit, which is spin 3... Sorry, it's lose 4 life at the top of your cards of your deck to your gauge. If this was that, it would be way better. That's probably why it's not that.
It is almost certainly why it's not that. I'm pretty sure it was at one point, and it was too much.
Yeah. So this is a really heavily nerfed version that's like... It's good, but it's only good when your hand is crap, right? So it's like, you want to throw a bunch of normals in your gauge, or maybe like some of these, and... And then you're out all those cards, and you're just wild swinging when your opponent strikes you next turn, and you don't have any way to help you rebuild. Oh, wait, hold on. I actually forgot about this until just now. That wasn't for effect. I forgot about this boost. Okay. So, these are a direct combo. You play Feed Me, and then you play Sacrifice. That seems solid, honestly.
It's solid, except that you're using Verdant, and in my experience, Verdant is the thing that makes Sydney and Serena win games.
That's fair. Yeah, let me look at the attack on this. It is a really good attack. I have beaten so many Verdants by spiking or focusing them that I kind of have lost respect for it. But if the opponent starts anywhere near Serena, or if you are exceeded and at close range, Verdant can close games very abruptly. It does 8 damage, which means it hits lethal a lot sooner than people expect, and it's only 2 gauge by itself. although you want to have either defend in play or more gauge in order to ensure that it's safe. But Verdant with defend is not getting stunned by anything short of spike, so, you know, that's 8 damage that you're going to get. I guess this also combos well with Vine Lash, or Vine Snare, excuse me. Yeah. So, I feel like, ideally, I would boost this once, and then keep the attacks in reserve after that. And hopefully I would get a transform like this. This one? Yeah, this one. Because I don't value this attack. So, like, I just want to get a transform that reduces my exceed cost, because I do value my exceed.
Yeah, and Sydney has a very expensive printed exceed cost. Notably, he has a way to reduce it by being in the center of the stage.
Yeah, but if you get three of these, 1 gauge is not very much to pay for exceeding, so it can totally be worth it.
Yeah, it's notably very cheap to spend 1 gauge as Sydney.
Yep. Not hard to get gauge. Yeah, so I feel like my plan is... Well, there is one thing that makes this awkward, right? The other characters that I can think of who have opponents cannot move have very obvious ways to capitalize on turn 1. Lucia plays Firefly Gunner. Beheaded plays Infantry Bow. I can't think of anyone else who has it. Is that it? It might be it. But yeah, on turn 1, this boost does not give you an immediate powerful setup. So that is a minor drawback compared to how good this setup is once you have it. On the other hand, if they spend their turn 1 moving closer to you, then it's great. So, it also stocks your discard so that Choking Thorns gets even more value. I also feel like parrying Choking Thorns is legitimately reasonable because I'm not afraid of... Like, I don't feel like I need to hold a block for any of this. I would rather just get this card out of the mix.
Yeah.
Alright, so my assessment of power budget is... Number 1. Probably number 2. And then these are like... this? Pretty comparable to each other. All-Out-In is a little unimpressive, but making the opponent burn a gauge can actually be devastating if they care about specific breakpoints. It also buys you time by slowing down their ramp if they're building up to certain breakpoints. And then, like, I put these together, and then this is like, that's kind of my assessment of their power budget. So a lot of their budget is in these heavy trading moves. And then their fast moves don't really do enough to help you close games, which puts you in an awkward spot where you need to play trading moves that don't actually trade, or at least they don't trade badly enough that you will suffer for it. Like, basically, you want to land a Spore Burst that does 5 damage and you take nothing. And you want to land a Blossom Haze that does 3 damage and you take 1 or less. And you want to land a Choking Thorns where, you know, you deal 6 and take up to 2 and no more. So getting that kind of value out of your kit is how you're going to do it, because All-In while fast doesn't do lethal easily. Pea Shooter is not really worth considering as an attack most of the time. And Verdant Slaughter, in my experience, isn't reliable, but it looks cool. Alright, well, that's my assessment. Somebody asked, I answered.
Someone also suggested, yeah, it was Ed said, I love deep analysis of characters, please make it a series. That would be fun to do and to watch. I'm sure that if that's something you want to pursue, you can find lots of people to talk about characters they know a lot about.
That could be fun. Well, I mean, I'll think about that. Like, not so much tonight, because I need to be wrapping up here. But that's nice. I've been wanting to stream more, and that would be a fun thing to do. And I'm always happy to talk about this game. It'll be especially interesting to see people get hype as more stuff about the new season comes out. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm going to close down here. Any further comments, Blue?
It was a lot of fun, and if you want to have me back on to talk more about Exceed Design, I would love to be on.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I will check in with you about that later when I've had time to sort out what that would look like. But for now, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate your insights. And to everybody who joins the stream and the events in general, or who's watching this video later, thanks for checking it out. I hope you learned something. I hope you were able to level up your game. If you have questions or comments, by all means, hop by the Level99 Discord server, chat with folks, learn some things, get some fights in. And most of all, have fun. Enjoy the games. That's what it's about. So I'm going to sign out here and close the stream.